Welcome to the Unbranded Leadership Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything about leadership and how we can grow in our own unique leadership journeys. I'm your host, Michael DeStefano, and on today's episode, we discuss a topic that is important to leaders as well as important to our team members, and that is mental health and resiliency. Today, we're talking with our guest, David Fielding, with Stoked on Life, which is a 501c3 out of Jupiter, Florida. What makes what they're doing so unique is that they apply this thing called the blue mind theory into their therapy for treatment. And they're treating things like addiction, PTSD. They also have some programs that they're utilizing to build up resiliency in our first responders and giving them those techniques that allow them to react and cope with a lot of the things that we see on a regular day-to-day basis doing our jobs. It's really, really exciting and novel treatment, and I really can't wait to see it become more mainstream, not only in the fire service, but in general. Mike DeStefano here with the Unbranded Leadership Podcast. I wanted to take a second to thank our sponsor, Recruit Strength, out of Melbourne, Florida. Recruit Strength is a strength training gym that offers 24-hour access to its members, as well as online and in-person strength and conditioning coaching. For more information or to contact them and get set up, visit recruitstrength.com. So David, first and foremost, tell me about Stoked on Life, how it was created, where it was created, why, and kind of give us your elevator pitch, if you will, but a little bit more in depth than just a regular elevator pitch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Stoked on Life is a 501c non-for-profit that does aquatic therapy. Previously, we were calling it surf therapy, but we use other modalities besides surfing, whether it be boogie boarding, paddle boarding, meditation in near and around the water, really diving into the blue mind theory, just the scientific research that shows that being in, near, around, or underwater provokes many wonderful states of mind, increases your dopamine, your serotonin, decreases your cortisol levels. And it all began with our founder, Allison Bishop. She's a local therapist, and her son, Brooks, was actually struggling with some mental health issues, and surfing essentially aided greatly in his journey. She was working in equine therapy, and she noticed that there was a gap and there really wasn't a whole lot of surf or aquatic therapy, and saw the value in it. So she actually went out to California, trained with another organization, came back here October of 23, and she launched Stoked on Life. And I jumped aboard as the aquatic director in the very beginning. And we've come a really long way. And we work with individuals and teens struggling with mental health and substance abuse. We work very intimately with some of the treatment centers in the area. We run about 4 to 5 clinics per week now. Plus, we also offer family sessions or one-on-one sessions as well. So that's kind of a little cap.
Very cool. I like it. So it started out with almost seeing the impact that surfing was having on mental health, and then kind of branching off from there and discovering the why it was having such a positive impact. Very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, we worked with Dr. Jay Nichols, who is untimely passing recently. He wrote the book, The Blue Mind Theory. He helped us to write our curriculum, which I'll go into a little bit later. And the scientific research that he found, and then him spreading his message around the world. So that was a really blessing to have him aboard and writing our curriculum.
So you guys are currently out of Jupiter, Florida, but how many? I know you said that they went to California for a portion of it and everything. Do you guys just specifically operate out of Jupiter right now in South Florida, or is there more?
Correct. Yes, we have a contract that we're able to operate out of a small parking lot called Ocean Boulevard Parking, which is just south of Carlin Park in Jupiter. So we partnered with the county. They were gracious enough to give us that spot. So we host most of our sessions out of there. However, we are working soon with Loggerhead, Sea Turtle Rescue, and we have a couple other treatment centers that are further south where we can move the trailer and kind of go to different areas. But most of our clinics are hosted in Jupiter.
Gotcha. So for the most part, who do you service? Who is your clientele, and what's the kind of overall mission of Stoked on Life?
Yeah, the mission is obviously to continue to provide the service. We work mostly with right now treatment centers, so inpatient treatment centers, who can, bring clients out. Those groups can vary from 5 to 25 individuals. Sessions are about 90 minutes long. We can get in later on kind of what that looks like as far as the session goes. And branching out, we've done a couple sessions with first responders, specifically firefighters. And just, I think personally, it's, you guys have a really, really tough job. There's a lot of mental health needed, showing up first on scene for some pretty gnarly stuff. And I have a lot of friends that are firefighters in my inner circle. And so those groups were really powerful. We look forward to working with the organization more intimately as time goes on. But right now it's mostly the treatment centers are our largest demographic that we work with.
That's interesting. See, that was actually something when I had talked a few weeks ago with one of your coworkers there, and we were discussing this, and this is the first time it was brought to my attention about this type of therapy and everything. And I think we were talking a little bit offline earlier, and I grew up surfing and I saw the impact on my behavior and my attitude of, when I was out there surfing, when I was coming back and the whole idea and that mindset that you're really focused on surfing, you're getting rid of the rest of the world basically while you're out there. And one thing that I started noticing that I really liked with your guys' treatment and therapy is that it's not necessarily just a fix. We're not just here to fix a problem, but we're also here to prevent those problems from occurring and kind of creating that resilience before an issue pops up, before you go out on that call and you see that, terrible thing. So I'm definitely interested to see how all this plays out. But
Yeah, like you said, a big thing is that level of presence.
mhm.
When you're riding a wave or you're in the water, you can't have your cell phone with you. You can't be too distracted. And you really have to be engaged in what the water is doing. Every day is different. Every wave is different. And as you know, as a surfer, when you're actually riding a wave, you're eternally present. You're in that moment. And that those seconds can last in your mind's eye for a long duration of time. And you can pull from that. And so that's a really big thing in our program is that presence. And most of our clients have never surfed before, and some of them have never even seen the ocean before. And so it doesn't have to be surfing. In our research and the research that Dr. Jay Nichols did, just being in, near, and around underwater, whether that be a float tank or sitting out listening to an awesome thunderstorm. In our program, we use boogie boards, paddle boarding. We'll do float therapy in the water. It's just the presence in the ocean or water that brings that modality. We just introduce people to that. Plus, the environment of being on the beach really breaks down barriers. And that's been a really cool thing to see with the treatment centers and then the individuals and the family sessions is that your guard is down. You're just sitting on the sand, man. You're grounded. You're feeling the sun and the breeze and the salt. And, that might sound a little granola to some people out there, but it's such a beautiful thing. And we see the results every day.
No, I mean, I think that makes sense. You look at a lot of the audio therapy, you look at a lot of the white noise that we use for helping with sleep and things like that. What's one of the most common ones? Beach sounds.
Yep.
So it's really hitting all of our senses all at the same time. It's a great. I mean, I'm biased because I love the beach. I grew up at the beach, but
Sure.
so one thing that I want to kind of dig into a little bit, not necessarily dig into, but unpack with what you said. You said that it was not necessarily the beach, but any body of water, correct?
Yeah, the research that we found and Dr. Nichols had found was literally 23 minutes a day can promote those positive states of mind, lowering the cortisol, increasing the serotonin and dopamine and the feel good chemicals. And we give our clients those tools. We have our blue scription, it's like a handwritten prescription for you and has all the different options and modalities on there. And just as a tool, plus we use breath work, box breathing is one of my personal
Mm,
favorites, which a lot of military and first responders use that to down regulate. And so just giving
absolutely.
them the tools, like you said, to help them off of the sand. They can obviously pull from their personal experience with us, but giving them tools like that 23 minutes a day can be a cold plunge. Well, no one's doing a cold plunge for 23 minutes unless you're Wim Hof or somebody nuts, but that could be a cold plunge or even a hot shower, or a bath, or sitting by a fountain, really anything that you can think of with water, even just listening to water sounds and in your mind's eye, imagining that you're near a stream or somewhere that you
Oh,
hold
wow.
dear to you. Like it's really endless. Yeah, so I'm glad you touched on that, Mike.
I like that too because this is one of those things where even though you're located in South Florida, you're on the coast, you're utilizing the beach for your therapies and everything. This is something that anybody anywhere can do. And I mean, we have listeners that are all over the country for this podcast. So the ability to utilize the information, the type of treatments and therapies that you're talking about can be done literally anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah, anywhere. Saunas. I mean, if you think about water in general, that's what you're using. So, however, you can do that in your area,
That's
for sure.
fantastic. So let's dig a little further then into the blue mind theory that you were talking about there. What is this theory? You were mentioning some of the benefits of it and everything of your guys' particular use of it, but what is it? What do we got?
Yeah, so basically, like we explained, just the positive effects and what the research shows. And then we've used that information plus our own anecdotal and research that we've done through our program to create the Blue Mind curriculum. So that is basically an 8-week curriculum that we use if we have, repeat clients. We have different modules per session, which can be customized. If it's a family session, we want to maybe want this module of love, or maybe we're working with first
Hmm.
responders and it's resilience, but those modules in each individual session, for 90 minutes, just to give you a little bit more about what the session looks like. If we're working with a group, you come down, there's like there's an all walk where you're just kind of engaging in your senses and, like you said, just becoming present, and then taking 10 minutes to maybe gather up an intention piece, maybe something that resembles or makes you think of resilience for that individual session. And then you're coming back to group. We're going over our guidelines and how the session is orchestrated. We'll have a nice share, which is always so powerful. Even what I love, even as a facilitator, is as I'm pouring into other people's cup, it's filling mine up. Like, I'm always the first one to share. Like, I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I'm above anyone there. I get so much out of it personally, and our whole team does. There's so much passion in the group. But after that share, then we branch off to those who want to get in the ocean or give them other modalities. It all depends on the day. Sometimes it's not surfable, it's too rough. Or sometimes there's thunderstorms. So our curriculum is very well rounded, where we have a bunch of tools and modalities and meditations and things to pull from. But if we do have a group that wants to get in the water, we go over all of our safety protocols. All of our staff are lifeguard safety certified. They're also done various trauma training and trauma seminars just to help better support our clients. Some of our clients are actually some of our clinicians and facilitators are also CRSS, certified recovery support specialists,
Hmm.
just to be able to better support our clients. And then we get them in the water, give them that safe space, whatever it is they want to do, whether it's teaching them how to surf and ride a wave from their feet, riding from their belly, just getting out there and floating and facilitating a meditation. We have a bunch of tools in our arsenal that we use for the facilitation of that blue mind. Our curriculum is also available to clinicians and non-clinicians I think it's a full, and Allison would be mad at me for not knowing this one. I think it's a 4 to 6 week course to go over the 8 modules. Um, People can learn more about us, and I'll repeat this a few times, from our website, stokedonlifepb.com. We're always looking for volunteers, even if someone's interested in using us for a group. Come down, experience a session. We love to have the help. You basically get to experience the entirety of the session for free as a volunteer. So we're always looking for volunteers. There's a volunteer form on our website. We are a nonprofit. We are always looking for support. And so, however, someone can support or wants to support, that's also all available on the website. And we're also on social media, Instagram and Facebook. So I know I kind of got off on a tangent there, Mike. I apologize.
That's
But I think
okay.
as far as the blue mind theory goes, our curriculum, what we found, we have some cool research stuff that I could talk about later too, that we have coming up the pike that we're all very excited about. So we're very proud of ourselves over the last, 17 months or so.
So something that you mentioned was the different curriculums that you have for different for lack of better terms, different situations that occur that they're looking to resolve or to have therapy for. You said love was one of them, and then you said trauma. What does the therapy curriculum for trauma specifically look like? Like what kind of things would you have them think about or do on the beach side versus in the water and things like that?
Depending on the demographic of individuals, and look, like every human has trauma, whether they've processed it other ways or, and so each, I would say, in relations to trauma, really every module that we have is very provoking in your thoughts and your feelings and your own personal journey and whatever comes up for you in that journey, whether it's trauma from work and you guys being first responders, or it's trauma in past relationships or drug and alcohol use. So that term trauma really comes up in most every module or group setting. However, it can be more concise and specific. For example, like let's say I'm just thinking out loud, I'm working with a group of first responders and you guys are talking about what you guys do on a regular basis and really letting the guard down. I personally probably host a little bit more breath work with that group, a little more
Mm.
mindfulness and presence, maybe give them some tools of other off sand meditations and different things that they can do to help down regulate or help that when your mind is racing off. And then whatever module felt right that particular day, whether it be resilience or love, and that love could be self-love, like a good way to process trauma is making sure that you're disciplined and you're doing the things that are serving you so your cup's not emptying. So really whatever feels right and whatever we could discuss with the group to kind of help with that trauma.
That's cool, and I'm glad you noted that too about the opening up and kind of removing that guard that a lot of us carry with that. You mentioned that in the group you get a lot of opening up. Are these normally group sessions? Are there individual ones? And what do you see with the differences of that?
It's really beautiful, actually. It's nice to hear from the clinicians and the treatment centers. Ben Bueno, he runs a podcast, the Real Recovery Talk, and he owns and operates Rock Recovery. They've been with us since the beginning. I can't help but say they're our favorite group, which sorry for the other groups, but they're all amazing groups. But Ben really said it best. He spoke at our gala, and he's like, "Man, I'll come to these sessions, and I'll get a client back to the treatment center, and they're in the room with the therapist, and the therapist is like, 'How you doing?' 'Oh, I'm chilling. I'm good, bro.' It's like, 'Oh yeah, well yesterday at surf therapy you weren't chilling. Like you mentioned X, Y, and Z and what you were struggling with, and you got a little teary eyed on the sand, and he gets to use that in the clinical setting indoors. But the environment itself, it just kind of helps break people down. Plus the level of humility
Mm,
and grace that we show each other. I mean, that's a really big part of our program. We all participate in the session, even the therapist that's there to facilitate, which we have licensed mental health counselors and therapists at every single session to facilitate that portion. Everyone is humble, and we're all human having human experiences here. So I think that really helps the environment and the humility and the overall setting just helps to break down those barriers. You kind of can't help it, really.
yeah, I mean, I do peer support and everything like that. I'm also a chaplain, and that's always the most critical thing is breaking down those barriers to start with. You can sit there and have that everybody sits in a circle and sings Kumbaya, but unless you actually present that humility and say, "Hey, look, I'm dealing with things as well," to make
Mm-hmm.
everyone else feel comfortable, you're never going to get anything out of anybody. So that's a huge aspect of it. Um, with the first responders particularly, have you had the opportunity to do a session with multiple first responders within that session? And
Yeah,
what
yeah.
did that look like?
It's similar setting where everyone kind of came down. We had the most recent session we had, I believe it was like 12 individuals, where it would be the first responder and then their significant other. There were firefighters and there were police officers. We've never done like a specific male first responder or whatever that demographic looks like very concisely. But with those groups, it's a very similar session. But the relatability, right? Because that's a huge part of breaking down barriers, is like the relatability of what you guys do, with within that group really helps to break down those barriers. But similar to what we talked about with the flow of the session is still similar. Grounding, breath work, and intentional walk, the share, the aquatic therapy portion, the experiential therapy, if you will, of getting in the water, processing, and then coming back for another processing after the aquatic experience, as far as a recap of what that session looked like.
So I absolutely love the fact that you just mentioned this, that you were utilizing the therapy for not just the first responder, but also for the spouses, because that is such a huge, huge factor of a lot of peer support that we have, a lot of the mental health aspect that we have for first responders isolates us. We talk about ourselves and our work lives, our work families, and everything like that. It may be a session with a firefighter crew, like at a station, but we're never kind of blending the lines with our actual family. And
Mm.
because of that, we create those different silos where, okay, I know how to cope with things at the fire department, but I don't know how to cope with things at home. And my wife doesn't know what I'm dealing with. And I'm so thankful that you guys are putting it together and actually creating a therapy for both parties of that and
They were
blending the
really
lines.
powerful. They were really powerful sessions, and I get goosebumps and thinking about some of the humble stories and breaking down those barriers, and a lot of tears, and yeah, it's a beautiful meritage, to be able to provide that for anyone really, but first responders especially.
I love it. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. Tell me about the research that you guys are doing. I mean, I know that you guys are fairly new. I think you said 17, 18 months that you guys have been up and operating. Uh, but I imagine there's a lot of progression that's occurring within not just, mental health aspect, but with your guys' organization in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind tooting our horn a little bit. I'm really proud of us, to be very honest with you. Allison has done a phenomenal job writing the curriculum, leaning in so hard on the organization, giving so much of her time and energy and resources. She's really our matriarch. We've also, since our conception, we've been going to the International Surf Therapy Organization 4-day conference around the world.
Hmm.
This past year, we were in California. The year before that, we were in Puerto Rico. And then Allison was even going before she even started Stoked on Life. This year is in Scotland, so that's pretty epic. And just being involved with that massive umbrella organization has been a wealth of knowledge for us, and also spreading our mission and our people around the world knowing about us. This past conference in California, we got a chance to speak at their Blue Mind summit in front of the whole world of surf therapy, and so that was super special. So gaining a lot of the research and the development and knowing what these other organizations are doing, and then even becoming more aware of insurance reimbursement, because that's huge, and a growth
Yeah.
of aquatic therapy or surf therapy as a whole. Currently, we were working with the Hanley Institute, awesome institute and treatment center in Palm Beach. This is the first time they've ever done off-site research in 15 years. It took us
Hmm.
a year to get this study going. And so this study actually just finished up. So that'll be one of the first publications in the United States, if not actually it will be the first on the Blue Mind theory and the Blue Mind curriculum. And then we're working with other treatment centers. We have other things on deck. Hanley wants to do more research. And so that's another big part of our mission, is that research and the development, aiding surf therapy becoming more available to more people, and also becoming reimbursable by the insurance providers so that it's more accessible for people.
Yeah, that's a big factor of that right there is like you said, digging into the more traditional insurance-based system and the bureaucracy and fun parts of all of that red tape.
Yeah, it's some thick red tape, but if you look at it from other things that are recognized, like equine therapy, horse therapy, for
Hmm.
example, aquatic therapy that may be hosted in a pool at a facility, you know, what we're doing is equally as powerful, in my opinion. So we have seen more insurance providers jump on. Allison, through the VA, has her NPI, her clinical number registered
Mm-hmm.
so that we can work with the VA. We have not worked a whole lot with them intimately yet, but we definitely want to grow with working with first responders and veterans and make it available to them at a low to no cost to them.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of leads into my last question for you is you kind of brushed on it of how people can get a hold of you and everything, but what specifically, what can we do to help you, and what can you guys do to help the first responders on a more formalized level? I mean, we talked a little bit about, the therapy and everything like that, but just complete wild imagination. What would it look like to involve Stoked on Life with your random fire department?
Yeah, great question, Mike. Thank you so much. Really, just getting regular groups available for you guys, getting regular groups available once a week, once every few weeks, groups that are run through what your, and forgive me for not knowing the full spectrum of what your requirements or your insurance is, but, from what I understand, there's a requirement for mental health
Mhm. For
as a
training.
first responder. And so if we can fit in that wheelhouse to where you're using, or first responders are using Stoked on Life as a modality to check those boxes, my opinion, if you ask me, hey, like, you can sit in a room with a therapist with or without your significant other, and that's going to check those boxes, or you have this modality of surf therapy with your significant other and your family, or whatever that may look like, or other first responders, like I'm picking B. So just setting up regular groups, getting a couple on the calendar where people can come out and experience it. Even if you're curious and want to jump on this sooner than later for your family, or for an organization that you work for, reach out to us as a volunteer. Our contact information is on the website, stokedonlifepb.com, even messaging on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Come down and experience a session. I mean, that's really where it all starts, to be honest with you. But yeah, regular sessions would be great. And it checks your boxes and it provides an amazing service to the organization that, you guys we couldn't do it without you. So everyone listening, thank you for your service. Um, Definitely first responders are near and dear to my heart for sure.
Fantastic. Well, David, I really appreciate you being on today. Um, if there's anything that we can do to help you guys, and I'm sure that a lot of the listeners are going to be reaching out to you for your help in the future. Like you said, that there's are obviously certain factors that we have to do, and why
Yeah.
not utilize programs that are actually going to work rather than just checking the box of something that's boring and doesn't actually do anything for us other than kind of take up time.
Yeah, we'd love to be that. Thank you so much for your time, Mike. This has been a true blessing. Appreciate you,
Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
sir.
Thanks for watching or listening to today's episode, depending on what platform you're using. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys took something away from it and learned something from it. As always, if you did, please like and subscribe to our channel. Share it with your friends and apply it. Apply what you learned from this podcast. If you guys do have anybody in particular that you would like to have on the podcast, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please reach out to us. You can either message us on our social media platforms, or you can go to our website, unbrandedleadership.com, and hit the contact us link to get with us. As always, I thank you and I appreciate you all. Get to work.